welcome back to another episode. I'm just getting over the flu that I had. That's why there was no program last week, but typical. I was ill and the weather was good. Now that I'm a bit better, the weather's gone bad again. Anyway, I'm in the greenhouse and today I'm going to be sowing the first of my broad beans. It's broad bean crimson flower, and I saw this a few years ago at one of the shows, and it had nice crimson flowers on there, and surprisingly for a broad bean there was a scent to it. Now, to sow these is one of the easiest things in the vegetable garden. Just pop your compost into a pot and then take your seed, and if you look at the seed you'll see there's a little eye. Well, that eye needs to be sown on the side. So pop the seed in on the side, push the soil back around, give it some water, and I'm going to keep these in the greenhouse and plant them out in about 4 or 5 weeks. The job I'm doing today is thinking ahead as far as May, and I'm getting ready for the run of beans. The first job I have to do, because I have to get inside, is to take down the sticks that were up last year, and then once I've done that, I'm then going to dig a trench. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can just put your beans into the ground in May, but I need to add a bit of organic matter to this soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a trench, and then between now and May, whenever I've got some spare kitchen waste, I'll bring it down and I'll throw it into the trench. And then about a fortnight before I'm ready to put the plants in, I'll put a few handfuls of chicken manure in the trench and then put earth on top of there, and then we'll be ready for putting the running beans in. And all this planning will help give me a really good crop of runner beans. In fact, you'll get to the point where you'll think, I'm sick and tired of seeing these beans. But then at that point I'll start talking to you about freezing, because I tend to freeze my beans when I get a bit too many of them. So the width of this trench will be the same width as these 2 poles here, and the depth will be about a spit and a half. Now, a spit is the old technical term for the depth of the spade, so I'll go 1 spit and then half a spit. After you've dug out a bit, then go over with a rake just to flatten the bottom. That's all I'm going to do today, because the ground is still a bit wet. Then all you do is you just add your compost to the bottom like that, and you just keep adding to it between now and May. There's still plenty of time if you want to do this later in the season, but I thought I'd get a head start. And when you put your compost into the bottom, just make sure that it's evenly spaced out like that. Now, if you're concerned about the mice or the rats, what you can do is put a piece of cardboard on top, and then we'll come back to this in May.
Next door to the runner beans is where I plan to put the potatoes. So at the moment I'm just taking the top layer of weeds off, and then in a few weeks I'll plant them. While I was doing this, I found 3 plants of Swiss beet, so I've just transferred them into the vegetable garden. Swiss beet is a very attractive vegetable, and once you have it in the garden, you've always got something to eat. took the opportunity of a fine day to finally get around to clearing the shed. I've been meaning to do this all winter, but it's now the perfect time to do it, ahead of spring and ahead of those Easter cups of teas and cake. There we have it, as if by magic. If only it was that easy.
And there's quite a bit to do today, so I'm going to start off with Rudbeckia, and the variety is Cherry Brandy. Now I grew this last year, and it's a beautiful flower that started blooming in June and continued all the way to the last frost in November, so I'd highly recommend it. So where do we start? Let's get the old pot of compost. Now I'm going to open the seed packet over the pot because I can feel the seeds, so that means that they aren't in their individual packets. And then just sprinkle a few. You can sow these from February to March, so I'm not going to sow them all today. I'll keep some for another time. And then put some soil into a pot and cover over. Just gently press that down and just give it a little squirt, and then put a label on it. So pop that onto a warm windowsill or in the greenhouse. What I'm going to do is I'll put it in the greenhouse and I'll put a propagator on top just to give it a bit more, just for it to generate a bit more heat. Now the next thing I'm going to do is something that I've never tried before. I remember watching an old BBC programme called The Victorian Kitchen Garden with Harry Dodson back in the 80s. It's still available on DVD. In fact, I'll put a link in the description box below. And the whole premise of that programme was to grow vegetables that were familiar to the Victorians. Now, I've managed to track down one of those, and it's Couve Tronchuda, and it's a cabbage, and as Harry Dodson described in the programme, the thing about this is it's a cabbage, but the head is another head of cabbage, and apparently you don't get that cabbagey smell throughout the house. So this is something different. So I'm going to give this a go this year. Fill it with compost, and like I've shown you before, just press that down because you want to get all the air out of it. And then I'm going to sow a few of them, and I'll sow some more in March. Oop. They nearly all rolled out then. Oop. There you go, that's enough. And put some more compost on top. Firm that down. Give it some water and put a label on it. And again, put it onto a warm windowsill or in the greenhouse in the propagator. Last month I sowed some Antirrhinums, you know, the snapdragons, the ones where you press and it opens the mouth of the flower. Well, this month I'm going to sow some more, but a different variety. This month I'm sowing Twinny Apple Blossom. Now, to sow Antirrhinums, you can sow them between January and March, and this time I'm going to sow them in a different pot, in this flatter one. So let's get on with it. And if you remember, the seed of the Antirrhinum is very small, so again it's best to open it over the area where you're going to sow them. And they're all at the bottom. There you go. So just sprinkle them over. You may not be able to see this on the camera. I can just about make out where they are. There's not a lot in this seed packet. Sometimes you have to open the seed packet all the way because the seed gets stuck down the seam where the packet is joined together. And because this is a small seed, I'm going to sieve some soil through another pot because I don't want it too thick. give them a watering. Label them, and again I will put them on the windowsill, and if you've got a greenhouse, pop them under the propagator. Now the device that I'm making the labels on is this Brother GL200. I've had this for about 5 years now, and it's great. And you print the labels out like that, and what's really good about it is that they are waterproof. Now, as I said, I've had this for about 5 years, and some pots, I still keep finding pots now that have labels on from 5 years ago. 3 years ago, I made a short film about the labeler. Let's have a look at it.
Because I only planted some of these about 4 or 5 weeks ago, but the labels have already virtually disappeared. But I've come across this little device a couple of weeks ago, where you program what the seed is that you've sown, and all you do is just press the print button, and it prints out a label for you. There you go, cut it off, just attach it to the label there, pop it back in the plant, and there the label doesn't fade away. And the good thing about these is they're waterproof, so you can water away without any qualms about the ink running or the labels falling off. If you want to find out more about the Brother GL200, there's a link below this video.
Vivi turned up on site this week, so I gave her a hand on attending to the allotment, ready for the spring ahead. Back on my own plot, I took some time out to clear the end of the plot. Now, in a few weeks' time, I'll be building my raised bed, and once I've done that, this side of the allotment is then finished. So I've already got my 2 raised beds in, and the 3rd one will go in this space.
I planted the garlic just before Christmas, and it's starting to come through the earth now. And what's just turned up is some other garlic of mine that I'm going to plant, and it's elephant garlic. And the bulbs, look at them, they're huge. So I'm going to plant them today, and it's really simple. Don't squeeze them into the ground, because you will destroy the base. That's where all the roots are. So let's just make a little hole with a trowel and just pop them in like that. Now the distance, I'm just going to use the trowel to work out a suitable distance that I want them. And elephant garlic is a milder flavour of garlic, and it grows quite thick. It almost grows a bit like an onion. So let me have a look. Put another one there, and then for the next row, same thing again. Just going to put the trowel down and put a trowel's width apart. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 left. So I'll do. There's 2 rows, and that'll be more than enough for me. Don't forget to put a label. You've still got time to plant garlic, but I'd try and get it in before the start of March.
Over on my other channel, there's a new video, which is a tour of the allotment garden in February. A link to that video will appear at the end of this one.
On the microgreens there. Well, that's all for this week. Hopefully by next week, let's have some more sunshine and I can get back onto the allotment, and because I want to clean the pond out. That's one of the jobs, and I want to make a start on my carrots. So maybe I'll do that next week, depending what the weather's like. What I'd like to know is, are you growing broad beans? And if you are, what varieties are you growing? So put that in the comment section below. And don't forget to tell me where you are in the world. Well, that's all from me. I'll see you next time. It's been quite windy over the last 24 hours. chairs ended up next door, and the pond has got a new bag in it, so I'll take that out in a moment.